Episode 97 of the Plant Cutting Podcast is upon us, and today we have herbalist, author, teacher, artist, Margi Flint. We're very privileged to have her on the show today, very excited to have her, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty about how to actually be a practicing herbalist. She's written a book, which is now in its fourth edition. We've got the second edition here, called The Practicing Herbalist, and it gets to all sorts of practical advice for setting up your office, the room that you see clients in, the intake form you have them fill out, everything. And we get into, with Margi, facial diagnosis based on the face, hands, tongue, all that kind of stuff, as well as how she cleanses her space between clients, and the legacy of William LesSassier and her other teachers like Rosemary Gladstar, Matthew Wood. So it's a really fun episode, and here we go.
All right, welcome to the Plant Cutting Podcast. Hi, Margi Flint. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for being here with Isaac and I. It's really nice to get to chat with you. I'm excited. So Margi is an herbalist and a mentor and teacher to many people, and she's written an amazing book called The Practicing Herbalist. That's sort of a go-to guide. We have an older edition. Margi has the latest edition there. And we're going to talk about that and talk about, herbalism in general. But would you like to introduce yourself and talk about how you came to the plant path, Margi?
Oh, sure. Let's see. The plant path began in according to my mother, I was always picking up weeds and shoving them into people's mouths and telling them to eat them. So I guess my plant career began with the plants. But officially, it would have been 1974. And at that time, the Gaia Herb Symposiums were going on, and I went to that because I was in art school nearby, and I thought, oh, this is cool. Herbalists, whatever they are, went to the first conference, and it was like I met my people. There were only 65 people, including all the teachers and the cooks.
Wow.
So when it was closing circle, I just started sobbing. It was like I didn't want to leave.
Oh,
I had met the people I belonged with. So, one of my favorite sayings is the herbs will have their way. They control, who becomes a practitioner and who becomes a gardener, who becomes a grower, who becomes a shop owner.
yeah.
Everybody has their gifts, and knowing which niche you're supposed to be in is really cool, because I really feel like I didn't have a whole lot of power over what happened.
Interesting.
Yeah. And crazy things happened, like 1974. Well, so how much of the story do you want? Let's talk about, it's in the book. People can read that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any teachers or mentors that you were heavily influenced by that you want to talk about? Okay.
Yeah. Well, first teachers, Rosemary Gladstar and David Winston, I met at that conference.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And Rosemary, I had on a skirt with a beautiful slip, and she had on a skirt. This was back in the hippie days, when we all wore flowing skirts and, wafted around. And so we just, I love beauty. She loves beauty. We sat around talking about our slips.
Nice.
Oh, you're an artist? Cool. Well, let me see your work. And I showed her my work, and I said, well, do you want to trade for the apprentice program? And she said, sure. So that's as simple as it is. It's like you have a conversation, you share your heart, you open yourself to change, and receiving, listen to the words that are spoken.
Yeah.
when people come into your life and, for instance, make a suggestion, oh, you might try, teaching at libraries, or, going to the YMCA or whatever to share your classes. Those are all, you're meant to hear all of those things. I do believe in synchronicity.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Mhm.
And David Winston, he felt like a brother right away. And I remember I had a dream that we were bears and talking away. And weeks later, I told him about that. He goes, "Oh my God, that's big medicine."
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I didn't know that.
Cool.
And back in the day, he would drive here from New Jersey and teach up at my dining room table to 5 people.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was the way I got to learn, with 2 little kids running around. And he would teach, and to drive home. Can you imagine nowadays? I mean, to have David come and teach is thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And worth every penny.
Right.
So, so David, Rosemary was folk medicine
Yeah.
more, and David was more a mix of First Nation beliefs and Chinese medicine, and very, very much more into the scientific, with a nice blend of others. And so they were my first 2. And then, Cascade Anderson Geller and Brigitte Mars, there's a whole generation of herbalists that began the herbal movement in the United States. And so, at each conference, I would meet more of those people. And then Matthew Wood.
Yeah.
And Matt is totally different than Rosemary and David.
Yeah.
Each teacher had a very different flavor of who they were, how they practice, what dosages they used, even the simple preparation of making a tincture. All 3 had totally different ways.
Interesting.
I know. So it's like, and I love that about herbal medicine. Rarely is there a bad way to do things.
Right.
I do believe you should understand why you're doing it in a certain way. But I remember Nikki Telks and she believes that, she's also a teacher of mine, even though she's a student. She's also a teacher. And you get really smart after a while and realize, oh, my students are my teachers.
Yes, that's really nice.
So anyway, she said, oh, you really should measure out your herbs and your alcohol. And of course, I'm thinking, I'm too busy for that. So I said, let's do an experiment. You do it your way, I'll do it my way, and we'll see what happens. So I, put my herbs in the jar, and then she took them out and measured them.
Yeah.
Then I put my alcohol in. She figured out how much was out of the bottle.
Okay.
We did our whole thing. They were exactly the same.
Oh my gosh, no way.
See, I thought that's like intuition, like, oh, exactly, just by the
It's just the folk method. Put it in, cover it with alcohol until there's 2 inches of clear ahead.
Yeah.
And if it's roots, the jar will expand 2 times. So be careful. So yeah. So other teachers, William LesSassier, of course, he's the one. William, he was a character. That man traveled across the country starting at the age of 16 from Lubbock, Texas.
Wow.
And traveled across the country teaching at the age of 16 and being an herbalist and being totally eccentric and wild. I did not know him then, and it's probably just as well. It could have been dangerous. So, so I met him late in his life, toward the end of his life, actually. And he had this Western medicine approach. That's not right. Western earth tradition of diagnosing the face, nails, tongue, temperature, everything. And when, David had taught me that class 3 or 4 times. And, I'm not a fast learner. And William taught it, boom, it was in. It was like everything funneled into my head and little
Okay.
sparkles happened and it was embedded in me.
Wow.
It was so cool. And so he, his teachings have really been pivotal in educating herbalists.
Mm-hmm.
How, if you can look at somebody and know, oh my God, they have large intestine lines coming down and they have large intestine lines going across their forehead. They're complaining of digestive issues. Their tongue is thick and coated with crevices. You have lots of indications going, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Good job.
It's
So,
very important.
I think indications should be taught to herbalists young in the early years.
Yeah.
So weeks and weeks of torture.
Right. That's really interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
it seems very important too to get started young with that because it takes a while to get a feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in person is always best. I mean, I learn best by sitting at the knee of my teacher. I'm not a great book learner. Funny that I wrote a book, but I learn best like literally either sitting beside or in front of, but really in physical proximity to my teacher. It's just the best way for me to learn. And you learn so many subtleties. I always think everything is in the book, and then somebody will say, no, that's not in the book.
Oh.
I had to get it all in there. But yeah, William was amazing.
Yeah, he's not as well known in like the up and coming herbalist group
Really?
as like I think just 2 years ago is when I first actually heard about him, and I studied with Seven Song, and for some reason he never really came up in conversation, and I don't know, it like I might have seen his name written, but I didn't realize what a big impact he had on the herbal community and on my teachers.
He was a huge influence on David Winston.
Yeah.
And he was around with the Tiaras and Rosemary and all the big herbalists from the 60s were influenced by William. And probably, a lot of people, these days the man would be totally in trouble. He has no boundaries.
Okay, gotcha.
It's a big class I teach. So he would have just been in trouble, which is an interesting thing. A teacher often has much to teach, even though they may not be living in a way that you admire. What I mean, it's like presidents and Brown and all that stuff. It's like, are they a good president? Yep, there's all this other stuff going on, but
totally.
I have learned not to judge people. I try really hard.
Well, people are multifaceted and they can have really amazing gifts in one area and then have a shadow side that they've never really delved into or addressed.
Right.
Yeah, that's just the way it is.
We're all unique.
Yeah, totally.
But so where did he learn these techniques of like
Good
diagnosis?
So he studied Chinese medicine. He studied a lot of native, but not just here in the United States, but he traveled quite a bit to South America. Mexico, I know he was there because he was in prison for a while there. Those were the days you got thrown in jail for having a joint,
Totally.
So Huna, which is Hawaiian, so Chinese, local, this continent stuff, Ayurveda, so he was a mixer. Which is how I see myself too. My work is eclectic. I love the Ayurvedic doshas. If I know that my client is Pitta, I know they'll do whatever I say,
Right.
as long as they think I'm smarter than they are.
Uh-huh.
But if they think I'm not, they won't do anything you say.
Exactly.
And if they're kapha, I know I have to rely on their gastronomical delights because it's all about things tasting good.
Yeah.
And if they're vata, they're gonna have to set a cell phone or live with a pitta to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
They're never gonna remember to take anything, and even if the alarm goes off, they might forget.
Yeah, totally. That's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a question or?
Well, it's just interesting to me with the doshas, like how they are the same but different than the elements, like they have like all four elements turned into three. But it makes me wonder, so there's like kapha is water and earth, right? And then vata is like air.
Air and ether.
Air and ether. Okay.
Okay. And then so what's the why isn't there a fourth one? Is there a fourth one?
Everyone always tries to blend to have it all fit together nicely, like a little jigsaw puzzle. It's like, oh, we're going to take Chinese medicine and make the 5 elements match to Ayurveda, and then we're going to take this other tradition and make it match. But
sometimes you just can't do it. Yeah,
you can't do it. And I am not an Ayurvedic practitioner, but I want to know who my person is in front of me, because that's how I learn compliance.
Right.
And a lot of temperature and heat stuff, you can't give pittas stimulants or they just spin around on the ceiling. So
makes
different traditions for me offer different tools.
Different lenses, languages, and then that's how and you could do it a number of different ways, but these are the ones that you've learned and worked for you. Okay.
And everybody else can pick the ones that work for them.
Yeah. When you were speaking earlier to different people following their threads and finding their unique gifts in different herbal realms, whether it's they become an herb shop owner or a gardener, that's something that I think is really present in students who are just graduating from herb school, and now they're like, okay, what's next? And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit more to how you can find your unique path and the people that will be the best to work with, Yeah.
So my first suggestion is most herbalists go into herbal studies thinking they want to be a practitioner. Once you begin practicing, you will quickly determine how comfortable you are actually doing that. Some people are not great with people. They're better with plants or dogs or cats or, to be a farmer is a fabulous thing for herbalists. I mean, I rely on really good, conscious, prayerful, earth-centered farmers to grow my herbs. That's a huge gift. And knowing, oh, maybe I shouldn't be practicing because I get bored. I've seen people literally get bored during a consultation. It's like, no, you should be fascinated.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Right.
So that's one thing. Some people love research.
Yeah.
So they're, I have a couple of floors of fabulous library, but do I rely mostly on books? I did when I was younger. When I was a beginning student, I would have 10 books on the dining room table at all times. So whatever herb I was using, I would research before I would actually use it. Good study practice. Do I do that now?
Yeah.
No, I'm terrible now. I hardly ever do that. I really think I should start going back into that library and
it could be fun.
Some of those books that I haven't touched.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess at this point, you've already internalized all of that information, and then you've had your experience, so you don't really need to.
Well, you always need it. It was Brooke Medicine Eagle said, be cautious because the energy on the plant planet is changing,
Mm,
and that will change the energy of the plants. It's like if you get plants grown in China and plants grown here, like astragalus, they're a little different.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
vibrational.
Yep.
You know, the magnetic fields and the way the soil is and the environment, all of that affects everything growing, including us.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's a thought about how things will change.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be on your toes.
Actually, I was speaking to a Chinese woman lately who was saying that, in her opinion, you only get plants from where they are naturally grow. They don't have the same medicine. Like American ginseng grown in China is not going to be, the same. And astragalus grown in the U.S. is not going to be the same.
Maybe.
But that also leads to questions about, like, then should you only be using plants that grow around where you are, where you live?
No, there was always trade.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, my thought is, from as soon as man was walking the earth, he was bartering.
Yeah.
I have this, you have that. I wish we were all better at that. I think if we all shared and traded, there'd be a happier planet.
Right.
People with water could have something, share it, and
Yeah.
people with wood could share it, and all of that. But we have traded through all time. I think when herbs present themselves all around you in your own grounds, there's a message. Like last year, cleavers was everywhere. It's like, okay, Miss COVID fat girl, it's time for a little lymphatic drainage.
Time for some lymph cleansers. Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah, I had an experience with cleavers just before the snow started here. Like it's melted now, but we had this big snowstorm, and I noticed a big cleavers plant popped up in the yard, and I was like, oh, interesting. Maybe I should, harvest that. And I think it was, the next day my neighbor came by and asked for some more lymphatic cleanser. And I was like, oh, well, lucky for you. I just made some before the snow. If I waited one more day, I would have missed it.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
And plants are incredible. I mean, we have a lot of snow. We haven't had any here yet, but I'll often be able to go out and find plantain leaves or celandine or something like that.
Nice.
When the snow is there, you just move it aside and they're green and juicy and fresh as ever.
Wow. Yeah. That is amazing.
Of course, you get feet of snow. Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. You can still sometimes do that. Yeah. There's like little motherwort. Well, not the, we use that too, but like, what are they called?
Rosettes.
Rosettes.
Yeah. Yeah. You can
Under the snow. And,
Yeah. So, you went down the path of clinical herbalist and teacher and author. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your practice and your career? What that's like?
Yeah. I mean, how did I become a practitioner?
Yeah.
Well, I knew I wanted to study herbal medicine because I went to that first conference and then I was addicted. And I remember there was a point where a woman knocked on the door and I didn't know her. And she said, I hear you're an herbalist. And I said, oh, I'm studying herbs. She said, no, I'm here. I need to see you because I have whatever the issue was. And I know you can help me. I said, oh, no, I'm not qualified to see you, which honestly, I think is a healthy attitude.
I agree.
And she wouldn't leave. So, I let her come in and asked her questions. I didn't even at that point have a full intake form of my own. I used the one from Rosemary's correspondence course.
Nice, yeah.
And took probably 2 hours to ask all those questions. It did learn after years to, cut that time frame down. But again, the herbs will have their way. People I didn't advertise. It was all word of mouth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's one way you know.
Yeah. They just
Yes.
keep coming through the door.
And then when I began teaching apprentice programs, I didn't feel qualified. Rosemary called me up and said, "Oh, Margie, I'm gonna send you my overflow for apprentices." I said, "I can't teach herbal medicine. I'm just a beginner." She goes, "Oh, hell, I've already sent them."
You're gonna learn real quick.
It's like, what?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
How
I
did
mean,
that go?
Rosemary, as I said before, the synchronicity of events is so important to listen to. I mean,
Yeah.
she literally threw me out of the nest.
Right. Yeah.
And then, how did the book begin? She
Yeah.
had me come up and teach, like, I think it was, maybe it was, could I write a little something on how to do an intake and maybe set up my office? It
Mm.
was like 45 pages of a copy shop spiral bound.
Oh wow, nice.
That was the first book.
Wow.
Yeah. She
Yeah.
pulls it out every once in a while and goes,
Remember,
remember
look what I did. I encouraged you.
she would never say that.
Yeah. But
She is one of the most humble people I know.
yeah. No, she's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see. Practice started that way.
Uh-huh.
The book had its own energy too.
Mhm.
And I do think the book is the legacy of William.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah.
Really, it is what keeps his name alive.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
and he really was such an important teacher in the 20th century.
Yeah, for sure.
For all his wildness.
Hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm really glad that, we have this book and that we are reminded of his legacy. So yeah, it's exciting.
Well, yeah, you look through it a lot when you're looking at clients.
Yeah, no, I've definitely used it a lot. And I'm still like, I have to actually look at it for the facial recognition. I don't have it downloaded like you
Yeah.
do.
But you would if you sat, I'm trying to train other herbalists to teach this class.
Cool.
Because the truth is, I, like everyone else, am going to die.
Mhm.
And I don't want the class to die. I want the ability to teach reading the body to be passed on to other people. So I have been gathering people who've studied with me or want to study with me for that purpose. And I'm just trying to, if I'm teaching somewhere, I'll throw them in and, they'll be prepared to teach a section, but I'll have them start to teach. And
Yeah.
that way,
Right.
Well,
but I don't want to organize anything official.
Yeah.
I'm done with that.
You can pass the baton. It's fine.
but it is like you have a cool drawings in here. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. This is
Yeah, all those indications
Mhm.
were done by Matt Wood and I in various coffee shops around the country
Oh,
as we were
nice.
teaching, or I would fly out and meet him somewhere or whatever. But he'd say, "Well, I think this one is this way." Yeah, well, a little more of this, and we'd draw back and forth. It was so much fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And Kay Parent did all the calligraphy.
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful.
I'd be working on indications and she'd be sitting next to me working on the calligraphy. I learned how to do calligraphy by watching her.
Nice. Nice.
Well, with the drawings, like it's in one way, it's well, when you're seeing somebody in person and you see their face, it's totally different.
Totally.
But in another way, like the drawings are kind of like a caricature. And you can
Yes.
kind of see they're exaggerated in a way.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, there's always the discussion, well, why don't you have real images of people? Well, I mean, when I was studying indications, the only book back then was Michio Kushi's. So every face was Oriental.
Mhm.
You know, it is like, no, I want to have it be more like the simplest line drawing so that your mind fills in the rest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in which it does.
Yeah.
Your mind does that. So that makes a lot of sense. So then you're not too distracted by the individual that you're looking at. It's the caricature.
It's like the platonic form of the of the diagnosis
Yeah.
with the indication.
And then what does
Can't say that word, can we?
Oh yeah, yeah, we
I'll
can.
tell you a funny story. I was asked to teach at Tufts Medical School, and just a pre-selective semester.
Mhm.
And I thought, what am I going to call this? I can't call it herbal medicine, because you get arrested for that. So I had a herbal treatments for organ systems. I show up the first day, get to my room, I look on the door, and there's a sign, herbal medicine. Everybody knows what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
And our medicine, the medicine of the earth, is traditional medicine.
Yeah.
Western medicine is not traditional medicine. They are babies.
Yeah.
Toddlers compared to herbalists.
Mhm.
I mean, herbalists have been walking the planet and tasting things and helping people much longer. And I have respect for Western medicine. I would be dead a number of times had
Yeah.
I not called on them for their expertise.
Right.
And I do believe in working with doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's
I want, in an ideal world, I want my people to take my invoice in with them to the doctor and say, put this in my file. Then
yeah,
there begins to be records.
right. It would be nice if there's a little more collaboration
And
between
respect. Yes.
and
respect,
respect.
yeah.
Yeah, between herbalists and doctors.
Well,
Working with Seven Song, we got to see the Ithaca Free Clinic, where it's a mix of MDs, nurses, acupuncturists, herbalists, and Reiki practitioners, and
Through integration.
yeah, true integration. And then for the chronic healthcare patients, they all have a monthly meeting where they go over each of their files and see how they can help the person from all the different angles. And maybe somebody missed something in their last conversation.
Oh, wonderful.
It's really special. Yeah. So I think that's a great model for that. And it's a good goal to work towards. But yeah, like you said, there's just not that level of respect on
But there
average,
are many doctors
with-
who do respect us. I mean, if I look back on the years, I was at Tufts 6 years, and it was the most popular class in that group of preclinical courses. And most of my students became big name integrative practitioners.
That's awesome.
So it was like,
Wow.
that was successful,
That is
because the
amazing.
herbs are powerful.
They are. Yeah. You can't deny that.
Yeah.
and I mean, to me, it seems like Western medicine has so many good qualities as far as like crisis and emergency, but there's really nothing.
And some testing practices
testing
are really good. Like I can't see inside somebody's colon. I see the indications,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's just a growth or an active tumor.
Right.
So they have really fancy tools.
Yeah. Blood tests.
I have my own tools, but they're not as fancy as that.
Yeah.
But they're also high maintenance. They're expensive.
Yes.
They're not needed for a lot of more day-to-day things.
And preventative care.
Yeah. And keeping somebody just in balance and healthy. I think that's where herbal medicine
Understanding
shines.
nutrition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your main tools as a clinical herbalist in getting to the root cause of somebody's health concerns?
Listening is number one.
Okay. Yeah.
So I make sure they come in no makeup and no fingernail polish.
Nice.
And I ask them not to eat something like blueberries that's going to radically change their appearance. So then I do my visual stuff, but I usually do that at the very end. But that is a very important tool to me. But the listening part, is what I learned from Karen Sanders. And when I was young, if somebody told their sad story, I would cry. It was like, and I thought, oh, good me, I'm empathetic. No, that's bad medicine. I'm sorry, you're not a good practitioner. If I start crying while somebody's telling their story, it's role reversal, and they begin feeling like the practitioner who has to take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was a hard switch.
Yeah.
So Karen teaches you how to remain empty. And so did William. He didn't phrase it the same way, so I didn't learn it as deeply as I did with Karen. But when you're empty, the words are heard, but they don't connect with your own memories of your own life. Once you connect it to some trauma or drama in your own life, something has happened, and it's now about you. And William would say, when that happens, you do the love wash and you blink and you remind yourself, no, or if you judge them, to do the love wash.
Wow.
And Karen would say to just get up, excuse yourself, leave the room, get centered again.
Yeah.
Come back.
Oh, that's really good advice. Both of those things.
Yeah.
The love wash.
Yeah.
Love
So
that.
let's see, being centered and empty, diagnostic skills. I love doing pulse work, drop pulse testing. That's sort of what I've been teaching every year there's sort of a special class that I just am hot for. So so I have my little test kit with 2 herbs that'll be good for a person and 1 that will not.
Okay.
So that people can be learning what a good reaction and a bad reaction would be.
Wow.
Because when you're with somebody and you have, 10 great liver herbs you could use, it's nice to narrow it down to the right one.
Okay, so how do you do that? Are you having the person hold the tincture?
You have your fingers. If I'm teaching, I have 2 people on each pulse.
Okay.
And then I have another person in front of them who gives the tincture I've suggested, because I've already diagnosed them. Oops, I used that word. Oh. And then I drop the 1 drop and draw it across.
Okay.
You don't want to go this way because then you've mucked up your little board of reading.
Okay,
So
yeah.
First drop, second drop, third drop.
Gotcha.
So you kind of go up. You don't want to put it on the same area all the time. And then you feel the pulse. Did it get better? Did it get worse? Did the tension leave? Did it arise up? Did they blush? Did they cry? Did they sweat? Did they laugh? Did their shoulders drop? I mean, there's,
Wow.
50,000 things you want that you'll notice, and you train yourself to notice. What did you see?
Can we try that later?
Yeah.
Practice on it?
It is so much fun.
Yeah.
And it's really good to have a couple of herbs that just shake people up.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones is werewolf fruit, which I can never say the Latin name of. It has the most syllables in the universe. But werewolf fruit, if you put it on, it's like the signature for werewolf fruit is change or die.
All right.
And I was teaching this up at Rosemary's in the years and years ago, and when I started teaching and was explaining drop pulse testing, she kind of laughed and said, "Oh, Margie, you just have intuition." I said, "Oh, really?" And there was one guy who was powerful, I would say is the word. That was polite. And he sat down as the test person, and I did an herb I knew would be really good for him. That was fine. And then I put the werewolf fruit on his pulse, and he goes like this.
Oh, wow.
And Rosemary in the back of the room goes, "I never believed this for a minute, but it's true."
Wow.
Oh God.
Whoa. He literally
So-
just like looked like a werewolf for a second there, huh?
And then I gave him the good herb again, just because I'm nice.
Yeah, you gotta like balance it out. That's really, really great.
I know. It's a great class. It's really fun because we all need to have confirmation. I mean, there are so many wonderful herbs
Mhm.
that we don't want to give somebody, even though it can be slightly different. When you have the right herb, there is no question.
Yeah, totally. And then you don't want to waste your medicine too, because it might not be good for that person, but it'll be really good for the next person,
Yeah, I mean, there are things you have to take into consideration. And the tongue is the thing that will change fast.
Okay.
Like, oh yeah, healthy tongue now. That was better.
Uh-huh.
But, a lot of people really shouldn't consume alcohol.
Mhm.
It is a spirit.
Mhm.
So if they react negatively to everything, I just test a plain alcohol.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, okay, so then you might just put the herb in their hand,
Okay.
or even like Matt would write the name of the herb on a piece of paper and put that in their hand, and it all works.
Wow.
That's just so cool.
That's really cool. And then, that's when it gets a little spooky. Like this is, we're not living in the material reductionist universe.
No, not so much.
We're all connected.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They're
Yeah.
all connected. So in regards to the facial diagnosis, you're using facial diagnosis, tongue diagnosis, and fingernail diagnosis. Like,
Yeah.
and
Plus there are some toe
the pulse.
indicators.
Okay.
And, I mean, I learn more as time goes by.
Mhm.
Endocrine, I'm trying to really concentrate the endocrine indicators so that is a little bit easier, because if you can figure out which endocrine gland is off, everything gets better.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, so you're still learning. Do you want to talk about what await indications of 3 means? Because that comes up a lot in
Yep. So if somebody has large intestine lines here,
Uh-huh.
those are very common.
Mhm.
Most people have those.
Mhm.
If they have large intestine here and large intestine here, and then a line across their nose and a line in between the lower lip and the chin, there's more than 3.
Okay, yeah.
So when you get like the central line in between the eyebrows is the liver line. That's a normal line for a lot of people.
Mhm.
But if they're complaining about vision issues and they're angry and have like verbal outbursts, that can be liver indicator. And the liver will often show, dark coloration at the back of the tongue. And, I mean, so you have to have 3 before you pass judgment.
Mhm.
Yeah. That reminds me, in astrology, we have the same thing, like you've got to have at least 3 indications. And then you pass judgment, right?
Yeah. Except for B12, that has 1.
What's that?
If you curl your tongue and stick
Okay.
it out, and you have they're like little octopus legs that come down.
Uh-huh.
Oftentimes people have blue veins under their tongue, and it'll be right along there.
Yeah.
That is a clear B12 indication.
Like you're lacking in
Deficiency,
B12.
lacking B12, and
Okay.
probably lacking intrinsic factor.
Hmm.
Usually you have to have a toothpick,
Okay.
because as soon as you put your tongue out, it sticks back down.
Yeah.
You get really good at looking for them. It's like, oh, and some people put their tongue out and it's like, whoa, okay, you need B12 by the gallon.
Uh-huh. So
But those are all the MTHFR mutations.
mhm.
Humans are mutating.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
not so good, but
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking of B12, do you find in your practice that there are a lot of mineral deficiencies just with our modern diet and
definitely.
yeah. And so do
The
you,
earth, the soil isn't rich.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Organic food is a must in my practice.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to eat well
Mm-hmm.
to get the minerals
Right.
because it's not there in the soil like it used to be. I mean, even within my lifetime,
Yeah.
there's been a huge decrease in nutrient values in soil.
Yeah. It's so frustrating, really, because it's like, even if you're eating whole foods, veggies, fruits, meats, whole grains, if they're not grown in organic, practices or by local farmers, like, you're just still not getting the nutrients, and it's frustrating. So do you recommend supplementation at time, or do you really come back to diet?
Sometimes I believe you should take the supplements you need. I'm not a big multivitamin person because often, not always, but often the quality of at least 3 or 4 things is sacrificed to put it into a multivitamin. Like, how do you put oils in a multivitamin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So I believe in looking, if you have still little chippies all around your cuticles, you're missing basic minerals. So like maybe calcium. If you have white clouds on your fingernails, that's a calcium deficiency. If you have are they white clouds or dots? If they're bright white dots,
They're white clouds.
clouds.
I've always had them.
Well, you need to do something about that.
And calcium?
So you probably should check your hydrochloric acid level. Because absorption of calcium, you need to have hydrochloric acid, right? To absorb calcium.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise it misassimilates. So people get things like arthritis.
Mm. Well, write it
So,
down.
yeah, so just squeeze a lemon, have a glass of slippery elm or milk or almond milk or something handy. Chug it, put a little water in it so it doesn't burn all the way down, but chug half a lemon down. And if you feel better in 5 minutes, chances are you need hydrochloric acid. And if you start burning, drink the milk of whichever milk you like. Because if you have always had clouds, but your hair isn't white, yeah, white hair is an indication of a lack of calcium or a lack of B vitamins.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where I love the puzzle. I want to ask them 50 questions now.
Right?
But I retired.
I'm scared. You're gonna have to go to one of
Yeah.
Margi's
Either that
students.
or we'll have to trade for an astrology reading.
Not diagnosed.
It'd be fun. It could be fun though.
Could be fun. I've got, but yeah.
So I wanted to ask you something regarding when you're seeing a lot of clients, you're exposed to a lot of different energy, and you talked about crying in your early days.
Yeah.
So how do you cleanse and protect yourself and your space and your family?
I clear my house in between every client.
Okay.
So when I was seeing clients all the time, I would, at the time, I would burn sage and sweetgrass. So now, trying to be more conscious about my choices.
Yeah.
Even though I get herbs that are taken with prayer and, proper ritual, I do understand the recent thoughts. So I tincture sage and sweetgrass and spray.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's like there's always a way.
Uh-huh.
And you use so little of the actual herb to make it, and it travels on a plane. I can clear a whole plane.
Wow.
And I do.
That's great.
So what I do, my ritual, which I learned from Rosemary and David, is to start in the east, pray, call in the energies, spray or burn in the old days, and go from east, south, west, north. And I do the whole floor that is public.
Okay.
Including the bathrooms and, all the space, because I don't want that Ghostbuster goo in my life. I'm happy people release, but I don't want it.
Yeah. It's gotta keep
And
moving.
it's like tangible.
Yes, I
It
know.
is like Ghostbuster go.
Yes.
So I clear, and I also have bells, and I
Mhm.
also have, you know, I have crystal bells and the
Mm.
big metal Tibetan bells and cute little chimes with mallets, and I like toys.
Yes.
More the merrier.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes maybe to transmute certain energy, the sound works better than the
And you
plants
always have to leave a door or a window open.
to let it flow
Mhm.
out. Yeah.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
And just go back to the earth because the earth can handle a lot better than we can. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
That's-
protect myself too.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I have a very brief meditation where I'll call on the Archangel Michael, who is stunningly beautiful in
Mm.
his blue robes, a little short. And he comes toward me from the mist, and we clasp, he merges with me, and we clasp his sword.
Uh-huh.
And then I cut the cords right, left, above, in front of, behind, and then I jump in my mind and cut underneath so that there's
Cool.
nothing attaching to me. And then I surround myself in a pure white light, and then around that I do a pure blue light,
Mm.
and I do my property.
Yep. You let
So,
it go,
yeah,
expanding.
because all this is, people enter into this space, and it's sacred space, so it has to be cleared, and
Yeah.
I have to be cleared.
I love that meditation with
Yeah.
Archangel Michael. Did Archangel Michael like teach you how to do that?
No, I learned it. I might have learned that from Sandra Ray or Bernie
Cool.
Siegel or somebody back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it has a
Yeah.
lot of similarities to like a banishing ritual
Mm.
or something like that too, calling on archangels, going the directions. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That seems like a very useful,
Effective.
effective thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are, I mean, the directions are important to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My property, I'm caretaker for this property. When I moved here, it literally was a junkyard.
Oh,
Wow.
The house was here, I rebuilt it, but the yard itself had oil trucks, like household oil, and the guy, like, it was the neighborhood dump. There was all kinds of junk out there. I wrote it till all the soil blew away, not a worm here. And now you would never know that. It is rich. And, I brought in 2 truckloads of topsoil, and I built it up with the cuttings from the fruit and vegetable store down the street every day, and
nice.
got seaweed from the ocean and fish heads from the market, and
Oh.
just built it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's special. So of course you have, a really strong
Yeah, to
relationship
do,
with the
to do.
land and
Yeah.
the spirits of the land. Yeah.
My son-in-law, I have a grandson, and when he was, I don't know, 10 or something, he said, Marmar, Daddy said fairies aren't real. I said, oh, really? When we sit out in the garden at sunset, what do you see?
Mm.
I said, don't let anyone ever tell you what you see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I love that. I'm just thinking about sitting in your garden now and watching.
Welcome to come sit in my garden.
Well, thank you.
You can
Appreciate
come and
that.
sit in the garden and hear jazz.
Oh.
Yeah, I have the top musicians in the area here every other week.
Oh, really?
Others form, yeah.
Oh, that's so special. That's
Yeah,
really
and if you come to the international, oh, that's just for teachers. Oops. Sorry.
okay. It's okay. Yeah. So let's see what other questions. So I wanted to ask you a question too about in your experience over the years as a clinical herbalist. Is there advice that you would give to your former self or to up and coming herbalists that you now understand with so many years of experience.
Yes. Okay. So I was famous for giving people too much herb. I always thought, of course, they're going to want to take 3 months of herbs. People
Okay.
do that, so it's a lot more manageable to take a little normal, maybe twice as big as normal tea boxes you would buy at the store, but don't give them too much. And don't give them too many herbs. Make decisions about what goes first. And instead of trying to encompass all their issues, because everything comes out during an intake. And often the most important thing comes out as they're just about to walk out the door.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's like, you're just mentioning that now. Okay. And another thing that I do that I found helpful later in the later years was at the bottom of I have one page I put all my notes on. And I would put on the bottom, next time. And then I would write a few notes because you can't remember everything.
It's true.
I remember my first 10 clients, every detail, but everyone after that, it's like, I don't know how many clients I have, but
yeah,
it's a big file box back there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a great way to just pick up right where you left off.
Yeah.
And remind yourself what's next.
And take a picture.
A picture.
A digital photograph.
Uh-huh.
Because people, it's natural to not notice change.
Right.
But if you draw out their tongue or take a picture of their tongue and their face and they notice, oh my God, I have color now, or that coating on my tongue is gone, or those lines on my forehead have changed.
Wow.
Some lines change, some don't.
Uh-huh.
But the ones that do change, you can tell them about. And I do think it is very important to give everyone reminders of their strengths before they leave. It's like if they have, big, fat, juicy earlobes.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you have great kidney chi. You came in with so much chi, you can go through anything. And they're, facing chemo and radiation or something. And it's like, oh, thank goodness I can put my cape back on.
Oh,
yeah. You have to give people hope.
Right. Yeah. So that's good to just, focus on, the strong suits to give people that confidence that they can heal.
Change somebody's life.
Yeah.
By telling them what their strong attributes are.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Or their opinion of their own face, if you have great big eyes and a great big nose with great big nostrils and big, wide, fat lips that are juicy, those are all good things. That means you have a strong constitution, unibrow, best one.
Yeah.
And it's like, and people have been embarrassed about their big nose or whatever. And you can say, you have the best nose. Did you know that, your nose is supposed to have nice big round holes? If your nose is all narrow like this, you probably have something going on. They're like, wow, I can love my nose now.
That's so special. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool.
To me, that also, it's interesting to see how facial diagnosis and physiognomy intersect too, because I've been studying physiognomy a little bit, astrological physiognomy. And it's really amazing to see how different planets and signs manifest in the face and in the body.
We are a reflection of our universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Literally.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can see those. There's so much detail too, to every part of the face, and then as you're saying, things change depending on your health.
Yeah.
So there's just a whole mine of wisdom, I think, in that study.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you about your book, so the Practicing Herbalist.
We'll put the new one up here.
Yeah.
So this is a second edition, and you've got the fourth edition. That's the newest edition. So this is another amazing mine of wisdom. But or Garden of Wisdom.
Yeah.
Look, it's a good book. There's a lot in it. So what what? But in your new edition, there's even more in it.
Yeah.
So what?
Okay,
What do you,
so from your edition to this edition, I actually don't remember all the details, but the latest edition has the endocrine system
Nice.
and cancer
Mhm.
treatments and Lyme disease
Mm,
and how to use a sous vide. Then you get to see a picture of my son.
Mhm.
Let's see, brain injury. Oh God, there's so much in here. I mean, the book covers how to organize your office. So all those details change in time. So the whole
yeah,
book's
yeah.
updated.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna look at the table of contents and cheat. So how to set up your office, how to see clients and ask questions. So it's got my intake, and you should not copy my intake. You should make your own.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you don't know why you're asking a question, why are you asking it? You know, figure it out.
Yeah.
Accounting,
Mhm.
every herbalist should take a business course.
Yeah.
You know, how to run QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Practical.
Totally.
And QuickBooks is a flawed program.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I've been using
Online classes, like, you know, virtual, that's all new, so that's in
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, calcium, HPV, cancer,
Oh yeah, HPV. That's a good one to have in there.
that's worldwide.
Yep.
Intrinsic factor, understanding it, the lack of intrinsic factor affects 740 something known medical conditions, and that's only the ones that show up as serious medical conditions. It doesn't count any of the minor ones. That's
Wow.
huge. I never heard a doctor talk about it.
Uh-huh.
Would you mind talking a little bit about that very quickly? So for those of us,
So in
yeah.
your stomach,
Mm.
there's a glycoprotein that is able to transform all the B vitamins. If you're missing intrinsic factor, you can't absorb B vitamins.
Wow.
B
that's
vitamins are
a-
essential for life.
Yeah.
So you have to skip the stomach and go sublingual.
Okay.
So a spray or a homeopathic or a liquid vitamin, but it has to go under your tongue. Because all those little octopus legs I was talking about are reaching for B12. And when they disappear, you've got enough of it.
Wow.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
it's like cancer, all mental disorders, autoimmune disease,
Wow.
all anemias are all a lack of intrinsic factor.
That's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
It is mind blowing. And there are herbs that help you encourage it. You know, if you make keloiding scars, that's lack of intrinsic factor.
Hmm.
You know, like I can't have open heart surgery or have a pacemaker because if they cut into me, I just start growing scars.
Hmm.
You know, I had my appendix out when I was 14 and then had surgery 20 years later. They pulled me right off a plane and threw me in the hospital. And I had a fist of scar tissue where the incision was.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't think I can do that to my heart.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Color, constitutional body types, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's my whole life in practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how personal it is too. Like you even share all of your artwork, or not all of it, but a lot of your artwork in it right from the cover. And it's gorgeous. And you have all these anecdotes and stories and pictures. I love the picture of you and Matthew Wood and William LesSassier in the front. Like,
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah. So this is a real gem. So thank you for taking the time and space to write it and get it out there to us. We really,
It is, I'm hoping that it lives on.
yes, it will. Absolutely. So is there anything that's coming up next for you, Margi, as we wrap up our hour together?
Coming up next, well, we have the International coming up. So that's going to be live again. So that's cool. That'll be in June. And I'm teaching in Ontario
Ooh,
with a new person. So that's fun.
nice.
I think that's May. And I teach every year in California outside San Francisco. And where else? New Hampshire a lot, because the women's herbal is going to be smaller bioregional meet gatherings. So
Nice.
there's one in New Hampshire and probably going to be one in Maine. And then private schools have hired me out, so I don't think you can just jump in on those.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and if folks want to find
And I'll
out
have one
more-
class in my own yard.
Oh yeah.
Every summer I teach one.
Awesome. And so
where you can come and study with me here.
would the best way to find out about those just to be to go to your website and sign up for your mailing list?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's your website?
It's Earth Song Herbals, EARTHSONG Herbals with an S.com.
Awesome.
Amazing.
All right. Well, thank you again, Margi. This has been fabulous. Really like talking to you.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.